Good evening. My name's Rob Thomas. As far as the contracts goes, it remains to be seen whether you guys are happy with what's been happening, and I'll leave it up to the intelligent members of the task force to inform you on the negotiations just held and what the latest offer means. But I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you about the amazing feats that we have all achieved with the grassroots, no-frills and non-taxpayer-funded media campaign. At the start of this dispute, we thought a logical email or two to our MPs and a stern meeting at Victoria Park would solve the problem then and there. And pretty soon, we realised that logic and reasoning was not an accessible KPI for some MPs. So on the 5th of March, we had our first meeting at the Pineapple Hotel, emceed by the inimitable John Fraser, and that took me a long time to practice that word. But over 600 doctors turned up. They jeered us in Parliament and speculated that it was fluffed up by unionists. So our response was the next Pineapple, where over 1,000 ID badge-carrying doctors turned up and spilled out onto the footpath. We thought they'd heed the warnings of the doctors on the front line, but they didn't. And at that stage, I began to wonder, hang on, who the hell just wrote these contracts? Had they simply got the work experience kid who got a C in grade 10 legal studies to knock it up between little lunch and big lunch?
Thanks, Darren. Look, that's a great effort. Look, I did notice you completely forgot to include the Industrial Relations Commission in the contracts.
Oh, gee, sorry, Mr. Spring.
No, it's great. It's great. Stroke of bloody genius, mate. Welcome to the fold.
So the Keep Our Doctors campaign was launched online in February and in the flesh by Tony, count your fingers when you shake his hand, Sarah, at Redcliffe Hospital. And this was the big push that we needed to get our media campaign moving. But the campaign was more than just about being on TV or getting on the radio. It was anyone who went and talked to an MP. Anyone who turned up to a rally in their lunchtime, held a placard and put their squirming self-consciousness aside. God bless all of you. From the Together Union, Kate Flanders, Dan and Remy. Sorry, I don't know your surname, Remy, but I keep thinking it's fentanyl for some reason. Who organised these meaningful and dignified yet very powerful statewide rallies. And these people worked tirelessly and, more importantly, intelligently. The junior doctors and their savvy social media campaign, the QNU and every single nurse who turned up to a rally. Andy C., a nurse from the Prince Charles Hospital, backing us with nearly 10,000 signatures on a petition is a major credit to our colleagues that work with us every day. And doctors must support the nurses and every other allied healthcare worker and wardie if their turn ever comes. The people who called into Talkback Radio to put up the fight, not just about the contracts, but to correct the blatant inaccuracies that were being broadcast. Alan Millard, you're a genius. You said so much when every second counted and everything had to be perfect on the first take, because there is no take two in this business. And anyone who slogged the footpaths doing a letterbox drop, wrestling with that ethical dilemma every time they saw one of those bloody no junk mail signs. Fuck. Furtively scanning the neighbourhood like a crazed possum on speed in case someone tackled you for dropping a piece of paper in the letterbox. You bloody legends. And just an insight into my brain doing a letterbox drop on one rainy night gave me a flashback to 1987 when I waited at school until all the kids had left and I dropped a note in a girl's locker saying, "Dear Rowena, if you like me, then meet me at the back of the chapel on Wednesday." The fact that I didn't give a time frame or disclose what would happen if she did made me sound a little bit more than creepy. All I wanted to do was to take her to a Barnsey concert so we could sing along to Working Class Man. Letterbox dropping reminded me most chicks don't dig going to a Jimmy Barnes concert. But seriously, our opposition was and still is a tough negotiator. And we've been ridiculed in Parliament. Our requests for a fair and decent contract were met with irrational threats of replacing us with masses of fictional eager doctors from interstate and overseas just itching to get on that big jumbo jet to Shitsville in contract land. But we knew we weren't all alone when the truly honourable Chris Davis, a man of principle and honour, listened to us and demonstrated immense courage, conviction and valour. So after months of campaigning in print, on TV news and advertisements and radio, it felt like we were getting nowhere until the government took out full-page ads in the newspapers, which meant they knew the public trusted their doctors more than they trusted the government of the day. And we have shown to our opposition that we are genuinely prepared to sacrifice our careers for the greater good and have shown solidarity by submitting our resignations. Over 1,200 doctors joined me in saying enough is enough. And without this, we wouldn't have got this far. And I thank each and every one of you Thanks for the long clap, that really helped. Who truly struggled with the uncertainty that this brought to your own life, but believed in the genuine reasons for it. A fair contract that put patients first and allowed doctors to do that without the fear of retribution. And it was only then that the government truly came back to the table after months of saying that negotiations were over, when they'd never really started. The campaign has been and still is tough, and we've been called many things from flim-flam and labelled as being simply hysterical. Personally, I was called poster boy and media whore. And this would have to be one of the greatest compliments I've ever had. For someone to recognise me as a sexual life form, no matter how denigrating that was. I thank you. Our professional media campaign was orchestrated by none other than Alana Mew of Essential Media Communications and her boss Peter Lewis. And believe me, Alana is the reason we were afforded so much positive professional media. What she did for our campaign and refining our message is immeasurable. And I want to thank her tonight, and I think we should. Alana was also responsible for my own hair and makeup. So tonight, I want to remind you that VMOs have stood with SMOs, and they have not allowed us to be divided. So when the analysis is presented to you tonight, don't just think of your own personal circumstances, but remember of the colleagues around you who have stood with you and collectively got us to where we are today. If they're sold short, then we're all sold short. Let's keep our doctors.